Well, hello everyone and welcome to the Econobox garage. The goal for this week is to get the rear suspension back on the car and the fuel pump installed. So let's see how far we get along. Please be sure to like and subscribe and hit that little bell icon so you'll get notified when the next video comes out. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoy this week's video. Well, now that all the major metal work is done on the underside of the car, it's time to start putting things back together. I'm going to start with reinstalling the springs inside the spring pocket here. If you recall, in a much earlier video, I had some challenges getting the old spring out. So hopefully I won't have those challenges putting it back in. So this is how the spring is oriented in the car, with the curve pointing down. And the spring plate is what I had the challenge with coming out because the bolt's seized up in these two holes. This is a new one that goes on top right there. And then the U-bolt will go over top, clamp that down. These are the two bolts that come up and through these holes in the springs, thread into there. And I'll just get it back up top here. And those bolts go in this hole, through the spring and into the spring plate. And then the U-bolt comes up and through these two holes here. And then tighten all those up and the spring is clamped into position. Now this hole here is just for the locator pin on the bottom of the spring, which as you can see right here. So, okay, the first thing I've done is I put a piece of tape across to hold the spring plate in position so that the holes line up. Chase these with a tap so I know the threads are good to go. Oh, and I'm using new grade 8 bolts to do this. So there we have the right side rear spring installed. But here you can see the two longer bolts. Those are the two that go to the spring plate. This is the bottom of the U-bolt right here. You can also see the locating pin here, and that locates the spring from front to back as well as from side to side in this cavity. These bolts are a pretty snug fit through the spring, so there's not much wiggle room there. So I'm very confident with the precautions I took when reinstalling the spring plate. That spring is in the right place. So next up, I'm going to flip the car over a bit and do the other side. There we have the right hand side in, and now I'm just going to repeat the process on the left hand side. So I've already made sure that my holes are good for the bolts to go in with no interference, and with the U-bolt as well. That goes in nice and easy on both holes. There's the spring, and I know this is the one for the left hand side of the car because I put the zip tie on all the left hand components when I took things apart. So that way I can put things back where they came from. Well, now that I have both of the rear springs in, I'm going to tackle the electric fuel pump before I start putting the suspension bits in. So that pump is going to mount right in this area here, and feed will come out of the gas tank, which sits right in here. It'll go across these two little clips into the fuel pump. I'll make a new fuel line that'll go up and over down the same route the original does, which goes along here, up to the front cross member, across, and then up to the carbs. But for now, the first thing I'm going to do is put the the fuel pump on. Now the fuel pump, because it's going to mount right about here somewhere. I just have to confirm that. I'm going to check on a couple of the Bugeye guys' builds and use that as a reference. Now it's not going to be mounted solid to that bulkhead. It will be mounted using these isolators or standoffs, whatever you like to call them. And there's two of those. And then to mount those into the bulkhead, I'm going to be using these Nutserts, which came with Bugeye Guy's kit. Now the catch is, I don't have the official tool to install those, and these are the only two I'm going to be using, so I don't think it's worth my while investing in the tool just for that. I've done some research, and I'll put a link to the video that I used in the description below. Okay, so I've marked my holes and I've center punched them. I'm just going to drill those out with my step drill, and then we'll get in there and get the appropriate size hole drilled for the Riv-nut or the Nutsert, depending on what you want to call it. So what I've done on my step drill, I figured that the hole is about 3/8 that's going to be required. So I put a piece of tape on at the top of that 3/8 inch step. It's shade smaller than it needs to be, I think. But this way I can just drill it in as far as I need to go, and I know exactly where to stop. And I'll check to see how my fit is, and then I might have to go to the next step up. So there we have my little tool that I made to put those Nutserts in. This is set up for M6, and whatever size you would need, you just drill the holes accordingly. I could probably drill another hole in here, say if I needed to do some M8s or what have you, and just make it big enough to suit the M8, and it would still work as it should. There's the fuel pump in place. So this outlet here is it's just a little bit offset from where the fuel line will go. So I'll run the new copper line up to about here, and then it'll be rubber hose up into this section here. And then this is up and out of the way. I'll put a link to this kit in the description below. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, it includes the pump, it includes the Nutserts, it includes these isolators, and it also includes the new copper line that goes over top of the differential and into the fuel tank, which mounts in this space here. So next up is to get this suspension bracket installed into those. There's the 3 bolt holes there, so that'll sit basically in there. And then I have all new grade 8 hardware to put on that I got from a local supplier. And again, I'll put the link to them in the description below. So there we have that suspension bracket installed. There's 3 new bolts. Fairly successful so far. I've got both of these brackets on, both the rear springs, and then the standoffs for the electric fuel pump all installed with the Nutserts. So here's the 2 rear dampers, and I'm running out of time this week, so I'm not going to be able to get them refilled and reinstalled. But what I will do is I'm going to remove these plugs on the top of them, the one there And this one here, I'll let them drain over the next few days until I can get back to work on them. So that's a wrap for this week. Thanks for joining me in the garage. So now that the rear springs are on and those brackets are on, I can get to installing the rest of the suspension, but that will wait for the next episode. Then I've got most of the work on the bottom of the car done, and then I can concentrate on bodywork and getting things ready for paint. As I'm recording this, it's about the third week of August, and I'd like to get the body ready for paint before it gets too cold in the fall. If you liked the video, please be sure to hit the like button, share it with your friends, hit the subscribe button and that little bell icon so that you'll get notified when the next videos come out. And also, please be sure to leave any questions or suggestions in the comment section below. My name is Ian. This is the Econobox Garage. We'll see you next time.